Did jump scares ruin horror movies? Hi, I'm Kevin, and welcome to my channel. So this all started because I saw a tweet by a guy named Matt Zeller Zietz, I think that's his name. He did a fairly provocative tweet about horror movies. He said, "The idea that horror movies have to be scary broke people's brains. It led to the overvaluing of jump scares, which are mechanical, require no special talent, and quickly become tedious. Dread, menace, and spookiness, a violation of taboo, this is also horror." I kind of agree with him that jump scares aren't everything, and that you can have movies with no jump scares and just have atmosphere and dread and menace, and those are also very valid horror movies. But I feel like even though I think that's what he's trying to say, his tweets kind of made it seem like he was disparaging movies that do have jump scares, even cheap jump scares. I mean, I was watching Friday the 13th Part 2 a while ago, and one jump scare, which is a very overused, is very at the beginning when they throw a cat in the window and scare poor Alice. But what it is, even though they're using a fairly overdone trope, but it was meant as a misdirect, because what you were doing is they build up the tension, then boom, it's just a cat. And then 30 seconds later, of course, Jason comes and gets an ice pick and into Alice's head. So that's what you're supposed to be scared of. So sometimes, even though it's a cheap, meaningless scare, it's meant to actually fool you into thinking, oh, that was what I was going for. And you're kind of disappointed, but then all of a sudden, boom, something else happens. A truly great jump scare, like the shower reveal in Psycho or the head in the porthole in Jaws. Oh, I don't remember any porthole in Jaws. And I've seen Jaws. Gets its power from all the combined varied elements leading up to it. A dumb jump scare is a cinematic equivalent of yelling "heads up" and throwing somebody to an object. I don't know if I totally agree with that either. So the shower reveal in Psycho, I mean, you don't have to see Psycho. Everyone's seen it on TV. And so if you actually watch the movie, it would totally lose its impact because you would know it's coming. It's so famous. I don't see that many, I haven't seen that many jump scares where it just happens without you realizing it. Yes, it is possible to construct an entire movie around the equivalent of yelling "heads up" and throwing something, and I would argue that some very successful films have done exactly that, but I don't respect it. There's more to horror than reflexes, or there should be. I feel like he's saying, oh, you can sell a film on just jump scares, which it's true, but at the same time, he's saying I don't respect it because it's, I mean, he's sort of disparaging horror movies that he doesn't really agree with, that don't fit his definition of horror. While he continues to say, I did not imagine this observation will be controversial or inciting. I don't believe that for a second. He knew exactly what he was doing. I always thought horror as a total package of which scariness is one component. I know that for some that is the only important thing, but not for me. Exactly. It's not for him, which is fine. It's valid if he doesn't like things with jump scares or with scariness, but you can't tell me that scariness it's not the only component, but it is the most important component of a horror movie. For most part, most people just want to be scared in a horror movie. I mean, whether it's highbrow or lowbrow or the cheap ones you find on Amazon Prime, you're disappointed if you're not at least a little scared. Even if you're not scared, you know it's supposed to be scary. People with more encyclopedic knowledge than me can be more precise with this, but I think the turning point was 1996 Scream. Was strung a bunch of funny self-aware jump scares together and goosed them with loud furies of shrieking violins to make sure they worked. Now here's why I have a real problem with this. Well, first of all, Scream was actually more of a satire of all the tropes that were kind of done in the 80s slasher films. And that eventually those slasher films got so filled with tropes and it was so overdone that horror movies kind of died out for a while until about 1996 when Scream sort of reinvigorated horror by saying, yes, these are the tropes. We're going to use those tropes, but we're going to be self-aware enough to say, yes, they're overdone, but we're still going to use them and laugh at them, but also make you scared by them. Because I mean, if Scream was just a satire, it wouldn't have worked. But Scream was both a satire and it was scary. And it says, goosing with the loud furies of shrieking violins to make sure they work. Now, the thing with almost every horror movie, and this is actually any movie, any genre, is that music is so important. It tells you how to feel. It tells you whether you should be scared or whether you should feel, sad, or whether, you should be relaxed. Which sometimes, I mean, look at Friday the 13th. They play this nice relaxing music, so everyone will start relaxing, and then boom, there's a jump scare. And that wasn't even a cheap jump scare. I mean, that actually scared the shit out of people and actually sold the film, made it popular. But saying that Scream in 1996 was the turning point, I mean, I would say Friday the 13th in 1980 might have been the turning point, so maybe he's off by about 16 years. You can't expect people like Gen Z, or even millennials, to find stuff scary like Dracula, or Frankenstein, or Psycho even, because they've just seen too much. I mean, people are just too desensitized now. Most people don't even think that Friday the 13th is scary. And at the time, it was one of the scariest films. Same with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People say that, oh, I fell asleep during it. But I mean, as hard as that is for us to hear when we're older, it's just the truth. I mean, I didn't think Dracula was that scary, and I saw it when I was a kid. And let's not pretend in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, there wasn't filmmakers making cheesy, gimmicky horror movies full of cheap jump scares and just trying to make a buck. I mean, there's Ed Wood, there's Roger Corman, Larry Cohan, whose movie The Stuff I just reviewed. Wait, how did he run over his feet and his head exploded? And there's many more. I mean, even today you have, if you look at Amazon Prime, the bottom of the list of Amazon Prime, you got like, what? Predator, Alien, I Know What Stephen King Did last Friday the 13th. Like, you name it. There's like a lot of crap. And from all the decades. But people need to understand, it's just like sometimes you have an expensive steak dinner. You don't have it very often, so you appreciate it more. But a lot of times you'll end up eating like Burger King or McDonald's. And even though it's cheap and greasy and not good for you, you still enjoy it, and it still satisfies you. And same with horror movies. I mean, you can enjoy a highbrow horror movie like Hereditary and Midsommar, but you can also enjoy more lower level stuff like, the Halloween reboot, or It Follows, or Happy Death Day. Is it Happy Death Day to you? Or is that the sequel? To sum up, enjoy what you like, don't worry what everyone else is watching, and don't take horror so seriously. It really isn't that serious. And just relax. Next up, why Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, is the worst in the franchise, and why I'll fight you if you disagree with me.